There's something that you actually helped me out with that you probably don't realize. So a year ago,
it's more than one thing, and yes, I did realize.
All right, welcome to the latest episode of Game Day Glare. I'm Lance. I'm with E. This is the podcast for sports videographers. How you doing, E?
I'm pretty tired. We've been talking for an hour, so
it's true. Sometimes we need to press record as soon as we log on, where E and I just kind of go off. And we had some good stuff before, though, in our pre-game podcast. But
yeah, the exclusive. That's it. Like behind the scenes.
So today's topic is run and gun, the solo shooter playbook kind of. It's like, you got one event, not too long, 2-3 hour event, you're solo, how to kind of tackle that by yourself, plan out your gear, plan out your shots, plan out your quick edit after, how to really maximize shooting alone, because most of us do shoot alone the majority of the time. And how to kind of manage that client too when you are shooting alone, and sometimes their expectations don't match your output, and try and really get you aligned. So that was kind of the idea for today's topic, and we came on that topic because we've all had those solo shoots, and it seems to be more and more of them lately. So we want to kind of share our experiences and share kind of how we go through a solo shoot. So what's your first thing, E? Obviously, I mean, it's talking with the client and kind of figuring out what to do with them, but how do you kind of approach that with the client?
Well, it depends what it is. Looking in terms of, like, is it a game or is it something more of a where there's going to be people talking, stuff like that?
Why don't you tackle a game situation and I can tackle event situation, and we can kind of give the listeners both.
Yeah, well, for a game, I think I like the advantage is that well, sometimes you don't, because I was going to say, kind of what type of lenses you'll need and if you need audio or not, things like that. So like for a game, but sometimes, like I was going to say, you don't really know, because for example, a basketball on the baseline, am I going to be able to like step back, or is there a wall like 3 feet away from the baseline, or is there stands enough that allow me to get like maybe a nice bird's eye view, or is it again so small that there's nothing other than sideline shots? So like when you don't know where you're going, my priority is always to, first of all, not assume that I can leave my stuff somewhere. So I'll definitely be carrying a backpack and not a case or something that I can't just keep with me at all times. Because there are definitely gyms that I shot at where I wouldn't leave my backpack unattended. And so I travel light. And also, it's knowing, basically I'm going to prefer, if I don't know what like focal lengths I'll need, I'll definitely go wider than tighter. So if I can't bring, because technically I could bring any lens I want, but it becomes this thing where, if they're going to be on my back the entire game, I don't want to be carrying 5 lenses, especially not like the big heavy ones. So I'll probably either just stick to like a 35 to 150, which covers pretty much everything, or I'll if even that one is just too heavy and I want to carry it around, I'll go with like a 28 to 75, and but that's indoors. But like even like outdoors, I'll probably just use a 35 to 150, but unless it's a football game and I know the space and I know that I can just keep the 70 to 200 the entire time. But yeah, all that to say that I travel light. I'll have like a couple lenses, but I'll definitely, if I have to choose between too tight or too wide, I'll definitely go the too wide direction, and then make sure I've got enough batteries. If it's really going to be a long day and I'm not too sure if I'll be able to charge batteries, then I'll go the V mount way. And make sure you got your NDs. Make sure you got. I always have a shotgun mic on my camera, so for sports, that's pretty much I'm good to go. Like I don't really need to bring like lapel mics, and yeah, and if I do feel the need from some stabilization, I might bring the monopod now that I'm a big fan. But otherwise, I used to be handheld all the time and just deal with that. The only time before that handheld was a problem was if there was like a press conference after the game and you're stuck for like 45 minutes holding your camera still, like you're like, man, I should have brought my tripod. But if I know that that's going to be the case, like when we do like hockey together, sometimes like I do, depends. It's not always me that covers it, but like if I end up covering the press conference, like I bring a tripod out just for that. But it stays in the bag, and if I'm not covering the press conference, I just never use it. But yeah, that's pretty much gear wise. That's how I approach a sporting event. So talk to me about events that are a bit more. I don't know. What would it be, like a media day or?
Say like more of a meet and greet with players or player questions. A lot of these places too, at the beginning of seasons, they'll set up a stage. They'll have fans come in, players come in. You can ask questions, stuff like that kind of event. What I try and do for events is, when I'm getting booked for the event, I ask them like, do you guys have a layout of the day? Like, I was going to say it in French, an horaire that we call it. But like, do you have a time slots of what's going to happen when? And then it can really help me kind of plan how I'm going to attack this event. Because I'm thinking like, if you have like an on stage meet and greet, sometimes there's autograph sessions. Sometimes it's a sit down where, you have someone from the team talking to one of the players on the team. And they're asking him questions about his off season, stuff like that, what they're looking forward to. And then sometimes there's like a meal and that after, because they do, a lot of these teams now do have these fan experiences, and they want coverage on it. So the first thing I want to know is, okay, how's the day rolling out? What time are people arriving? What time can I get there? How early can I get there? Because I want to get there as soon as possible to try and, get those empty shots of seats, stuff like that, and kind of like build up kind of how it's filling up and having the player arrival. That's kind of what my first step is kind of getting an overview of the day. Then, like you, I really like your approach, and we kind of did this when we worked together when we were on our trip, is we bring so much gear all the time, and 90% of the gear that I have on my backpack I'm not using. It's just in case. So it's like, listen, start planning. I'm trying hard to start planning my shoots where I plan smarter and lighter, because I want to be more agile. I want to be more nimble. I don't want that big backpack wearing me down. I don't mind wearing my backpack. I don't mind it at all, but I don't need 5 cameras in my backpack if I'm not going to use it. So that's the first thing I'm doing, is like trying to really maximize what I am bringing. So like I'm trying to use just one camera, maybe 2 lenses max. So like the 28-75 is my workhorse. I think that's a great focal length. Obviously it depends on the event where you're at. If it's, you can get close enough to the subjects and that, but 28-75 is usually enough. And then for, establishing shots and that, I'll switch to my wide. Audio wise, I'll have a shotgun mic on my camera at all times. And then I'll bring my lapel setup if for some reason I get a chance where I can grab a couple sound bites, either with fans, people who are asking questions, or players that, I can maybe mic up later. And you have to also see if you can get permission to mic up certain people, because when you're coming into these events, you want to maximize everything you can, but it's not always necessary to mic everyone up. But a nice soundbite here or there in your edit will definitely make it go a long way. And like you now, I think I won't even bring a tripod. I'll just bring the new monopod that I picked up. The fact that you could do press conferences with it, the fact that you could do a lot of talking head stuff with it, it just stands there. I mean, obviously, every time you move it and use the swivel head, there will be a little bit of a shake if you're just doing a talking head. Where when you're filming a sporting event, it's not a big deal. You kind of have it, you're flowing with it, and you won't notice that. That's the only thing I've noticed, though, is when I'm doing talking heads and I'm panning back and forth. The first one, so once I put one hand on the handle, one hand on it, I'm pretty stable. You won't notice. but having that as a light setup really, really helps. And it's nice when you take a break and you can just leave the camera sitting there. So that was a big, big upgrade. Uh, I've gone away from my gimbal only because I have the Pocket 3. But in this case, honestly, I would just use a monopod and I would try and get as many nice shots as I can because I'm trying to pack light. And having a gimbal is just an extra piece of equipment that's going to be weighing me down. So I would try to stick away with that.
I like it.
Yeah. But being lighter makes a big difference. It really, really does. And, you know, we have all this gear and we always want to give our clients maximum value, but sometimes you need to take that step back and just bring what you really, really need, you know?
Well, I think you bring more value actually if you're comfortable, because if you're if moving around is a pain in the butt and changing, like, because that's the other thing, like when you're, because the whole point of this episode is being run and gun. Run and gun situations, you don't have time to change lenses most of the time, or you're afraid that if you do, you're going to miss something. So like having the one lens that you can stick with and be comfortable for every situation, being in a setup that can move around quickly so that you don't feel like, oh, you know, I'll wait until I get a few more shots here. And then next thing you know, you spend half the game or half the event getting the exact same shot. It's like things like that. If you're comfortable, if you got everything on your camera that allows you to do maybe not everything perfectly, but allows you the versatility to do everything, then you're comfortable. It's easy, it's painless, and you can do a lot more. And therefore, like, the client gets a lot more value than if you need to change lens every time you want a certain shot, or if you need to like lower your tripod and then balance it, not balance it, but level it. And so, yeah, all these things are kind of obstacles that get in the way of your good shots. So you tend to not get as many. Like the good shots that you get are great, but there's not as many of them as there are when you're just fluid and ready to go.
Oh, exactly. And especially when you're running gun, the idea is you're going to be in multiple locations. So it's how can I get to those locations fast? How can I be comfortable in those locations? And how can I get different angles from those locations? And having that light setup opens up all those doors. So what are you focusing on first then, E, when you're a solo shooter? Are you pre-planning your shots? Are you, doing a quick scout of the area and saying, okay, I want to capture this angle, this angle, and this angle? How are you tackling it? Say it's a venue that you're there to film a game and it's your first time at that venue. What's your first train of thought?
Yeah, always good to get early to give you the opportunity to think about all those things. So for me, the warm up, like I'm done filming warm ups. Not that I never film, but I rarely film much, to be honest. The warm up is more for that purpose. I just look at where I can film from, what could be a cool angle, something that has either it's just like the clean shots, they're very typical, like whether it's for indoor or outdoor sports, like, roughly where you'll be, but the other shots, like the more creative ones or the establishing shots, or like the crowd shots, like where can I position myself to make it interesting? Maybe I have something out of focus in the foreground that reveals the game in the background, vice versa, like things like that. So yeah, getting there early gives me the time and the opportunity to think about those things, try it as well, even though like what's in front of me doesn't make any sense. I can at least like look at the composition of my shot. When it comes to outdoor stuff, it's like, all right, the sun's out. Where can I go to not be completely backlit and my shot becoming a disaster and things like that. So like it's positioning yourself so that when the game's actually happening, that you know where to avoid at the very least, so that you don't get stuck. Because especially outdoor sports, it's usually a bigger field. So if you go in the corner to get a shot of the touchdown, the upcoming touchdown, then you realize that the sun's in the shot and you can't see anything, and it's terrible. But you don't have time to go to the other side because it's happening now. So if you know it, then you won't make that mistake. So it's things like that. Just looking at the lay of the land and getting ideas for creative shots and knowing which spots to avoid.
So in an event, say not a game, an event, what I'm trying to do, the first thing I'm trying to do is I'm trying to think like the client. Okay. I'm trying to focus in, because I'm there early. I'm trying to focus on the little details that they added to their scenery, to their venue, that I can capture while no one's there. Just in case. And then after that, I'm starting to think of cutaway ideas, shots that I can film before the event that I can always use later on to cut away, say if it's a quick banner or a quick signage, stuff like that, because that's really important to clients. And then there is no real warm up, right? Like you have guys walking on stage, you have like meet and greets, everything just kind of starts right away, right? So one of the things that I'm focusing on always, and I won't use all of them, but I always want to make sure that I have everyone's entrance filmed. I'll try and film it at like a higher frame rate so I could maybe slow it down if I need. And I feel like every person's in an event, every person's presence on stage is very, very important. So I'm making sure I'm catching them maybe behind the scenes, getting mic'd up or getting ready to be on stage. And when they walk on stage, for me, that moment is very, very important because I'm guaranteed I'm going to use one of those shots in my edit. I might not use, I'll record all of them. I won't use all of them, but I'll have them all. So that's what I'm really focusing on right away as like my key starting point, because I feel like that really brings value for the client, but for my video also.
And then once we're in the event, like, have you ever run into a situation where you felt like unprepared?
Yeah. So actually, it's funny. Like, so, I was away in Texas last week filming a corporate event, not a sporting event. But I had this one guy who was on stage and he kept running in and out of the crowd. And I never knew where he was going to run to. So then I was like, okay, I got a couple of close-ups of him fast on stage. I got some wide shots of him on stage, but now he's all over the crowd. So how am I going to tackle this? And I kind of picked one side of the room and I was patient until he came to that side of the room and I got some beautiful shots with him. Because what I did before that is I actually tried to follow him a bit and the shots were awful. They were unusable because I'm trying to run and get him and come back and it just didn't work. So it's to be patient. Sometimes we feel like we have to record everything right away and we have to get the shot, but no, especially in an event, if on the schedule that guy is talking for 45 minutes and you see that he's running all over the room, pick a populated section and wait for him to come to you. And that's what I ended up doing as my game plan. And it worked out perfect. And also I realized he was very, very energetic guy. So I actually got him to come up to my camera and do some of he'd do like these fist pumps and like this, he'd do push-ups and all that. I got him to do a couple of them for me, just for me. Cause I recognized that.
Camera wasn't rolling. It was just you and him.
Yeah, exactly. No, but I got him to roll it. So when I cut the edit, it looks so cool. Like I didn't have to get his entrance on stage. I had him like, yeah. And all of a sudden he's running around the audience and I had him doing push-ups and it was like a really cool edit that I got to do with him. But I kind of planned ahead and I kind of seen what he was, but I was not expecting him to be running around. Like there was one point he's wearing a Spider-Man mask and he's pretending he's Spider-Man and he's jumping from table to table. Like I was not prepared for that. And nor in my script did it say any of that stuff. Okay. So you do have to improvise, but be patient. Cause you know what? I'd rather make sure I get one really good shot than 10 crappy shots. And me chasing him around the room was just giving me crappy shots. So I just sat down. I waited for him to come to that section. I got this beautiful shot of him running up to my camera and doing all this stuff. Then he wasn't even looking at me. He was talking to other people, but I was there. I was part of that audience. So that's something how I laid it out for that. But you're always going to have things that are unexpected. And it's your job to kind of figure out a workaround around it. And I do enjoy that part, especially when you're filming a conference and you have that surprised host or guest or whatever that kind of really involves himself with the crowd, because those are really, really cool moments and they make really, really great shots.
And I was going to say mine actually is more first of all, it goes back to what I was saying about lenses. It's just being stuck in a situation where you've got a lens that's too tight for the situation that you're in, and it just ruins the whole thing. Nothing can be done about it. Where if it's too wide, you can always punch in post or use a clear image zoom if you're on the camera that has it. Like there's ways to kind of get away with too wide, but there's no way to get away with too tight. So that's my main sort of thing. Or it's like forgetting equipment, like, forgetting my monitor at home. Or usually you don't forget the monitor, but you forget the cold shoe, the stand, or like some attachment piece that now you can't use your microphone because you can't put it on the camera, or you can't use the monitor or things like that. I'd say always good to sort of double check, triple check everything before you leave and, go in order. It's like, all right, power. Do I have everything to give my camera power all day? Lenses. Do I have everything? Memories. Do I have all my SD cards? Blah, blah, blah. And when in lenses, it's like, do I have all my filters? It's like, okay, audio. Do I have everything? So like, just to make sure that you didn't forget anything, or just make a checklist. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's probably the easiest way to do it.
There's something that you actually helped me out with that you probably don't realize. So a year ago,
it's more than one thing. And yes, I did realize.
A year ago, I went to film a basketball with you. And when I met you in the parking lot and I saw you unclip your seatbelt and your camera was already ready. And I used to always build my camera when I got there. Now I have been traveling more and more with my camera already built. And one of the reasons why is you forget a lot less stuff when your camera's already built, because you've already tested it. You've already, reset. Like I've already reformatted my memory card. So I know I have my memory cards. I've already checked my batteries and all that, because the moments you don't do that stuff is when you do forget an SD card or the little cold shoe for your mic. That's when you forget that stuff. So going on location with your camera already built, first of all, it saves you the first 5-10 minutes of that stress of putting it together, because sometimes they see you, your clients, and like, okay, we're going to go now. And you're like, whoa, I need 5 minutes. But you avoid all that. So that's something that I did take from you, because I used to be afraid to travel with my camera all built. Now I have a special thing for my car where I actually put my camera in, because since I broke my FX3 mic handle, I've been very, very more cautious with my camera.
So, well, to be honest, that's kind of how it started for me, was the handle, because the handle is fine if it's in a case, but in a backpack, it's kind of an awkward thing to just let loose in the back of your backpack with like a bunch of batteries and a couple of lenses. So that was the main reason I think that I started just moving around with my camera already put together, is to save the hassle of trying to travel with the audio handle from the FX3.
Honestly, anytime I can save a little bit of time when I show up and I have a little bit more time to either scope out the situation or even kind of relax, because while you're filming live events, you get one take at it, and we don't talk about this much, but it is stressful. You do have a little bit of internal stress at first to make sure, like, at least before I press record, I'm always overthinking. I'm always like, okay, ready. Let's do this. Once I hit record, I'm pretty good. I just focus on what I have to do, but I do enjoy having that couple free moments where I just know I'm ready, and all I have to do is turn on the camera and press record, and it's go time.
Yeah. Well, like you said to me, going to a game with the camera already put together saves me that stress of forgetting something, saves me time, saves me the stress as well around the audio handle. But also, like you said, when you get there, either the client wants to start filming right away, or you're late and you're like, oh, now I got to put my camera together. Or it's like, if I'm filming outdoors, even at a basketball game, there's not always like a space for me to sit down and put my camera together. Like if I'm in a high school gym, like it's not like I've got a table that I can use. So you're, in the stands or on the floor, or even worse, if it's outside, you're probably on the grass, and then now you're trying to attach lenses and things like that. It's like, why don't I just do that at home in the comfort of my own home? And there's not going to be any dust, any grass or whatever, like going on my sensor. And yeah, much easier, much safer. And driving, my camera always wear its seat belts, and it's on the backpack, which is kind of, soft enough so that I can sort of put it in a position where it's sitting on it and it's staying there. So unless I had to like break like super super harsh and quick, and I would just put my hand and make sure it doesn't go flying away. But other than that, it's not moving. It's not going anywhere.
You do the Frank Costanza move. We put your hand
Exactly.
out.
I stop
You
short.
Stop short.
Stop short on my camera.
That's it.
Sometimes
All right.
I forget actually that it's usually on the way back, and it's also good for on the way back as well. It's much easier to leave quickly and avoid traffic at sporting events like professional ones. But yeah, it's usually on the way back that I'm tired and I forget that the camera's there, and then I'm turning, pretty tight turn. I'm like, at some point I look at the camera, it's like between the seat and the door. I'm like, oh, forgot you were here. Just sort of bring it back.
All right. So back to run and gun now. How many angles are you trying to get then at an event? Because obviously the idea is to make it look like you have multiple cameras covering that game.
Yeah, well, I think I should have addressed earlier. I think like when I think run and gun, I'm thinking more like obviously sports is. I think sports becomes unless you're filming for broadcasts, it is run and gun by default. But when you make like an effort of being run and gun versus something else, I'm thinking more like documentary type videos. And so from that perspective, I'd say while I'm filming, my main thing is to give myself options. So I'm filming the same thing wide and tight, and if I can, I'll change the angle as well, so that even if it's someone talking, like as the person is talking, I'm filming wide to begin with, for example, and then as they're pausing or maybe being asked a question, I'll zoom in to go tight for the next one, because usually what happens is that those 4 or 5 different questions cover roughly the same topic. So in the video, it's not going to be like a full answer and then another full answer. What I'll do is I'll use the start from one and then I'll go with the end of another, or I'll sort of match them together. So when I cut it, it goes from wide to tight to without me even trying. It's just because I filmed it that way. So when I cut and I just use the parts that I actually like, it is a different perspective each time, and the cut sort of looks good. It looks like it's a different camera. It doesn't just look like a jump cut every time. So basically everything I'm filming, whether it's this or even a building, like an establishing shot, if I'm filming a building, I'll try to film like the entire stadium, like get a really wide shot of the stadium. And then I'll get like a couple tight shots. I'll definitely get one of like the branding on the building, the name, and if there's like a flag or something, a crest, I'll film that as well. I might get a shot of people like walking in front of it, or if there's a line already, maybe shooting that. So yeah, it's like different shots of the same things, so that in the video, it's not like, all right, let's show that one shot of the building for 5 seconds. I can have like cutaways and things like that. So it's like that with everything. Like any action, I'll get a wide and a close up. That's my priority.
No, honestly, that's a great rule. And you can also cheat in post too, right? You can also crop in a little bit more in post too to make it even a little bit closer, depending if you're shooting 4K, editing in 1080 or something like that, or even 4K footage, you could push to like 120%.
Yeah. And that's why you go wide and not tight if you have to choose between one and the other.
Exactly. But so for me, I'm doing very similar to what you're doing, and I'm trying to get like 3-4 angles for sure. Like I always try to get 5. Honestly, in my head, it's a little game that I play. I'll be like, okay, did I get 5 different angles? Because it's all about making my job easier later in post, and that's what we're going to be talking about next. But in post is like you film this stuff, and the worst feeling in the world is realizing that you only have 2 angles. Or two shots, and you're like, I got to go back and forth between these 2. So you want to just give yourself as much variety as you can, because it's only going to make your edit better. And when you are, running around and run and gun, you have to really be conscious of what you're shooting. Make a conscious effort to know, why am I shooting this wide? Why am I shooting this close? Why am I shooting from this angle? And once you start asking yourself those questions while you're filming, you're instantly going to become a better filmmaker, a better shooter, because everything you do is conscious. You're not just pressing record and letting something happen in front of you. You're actually, controlling the narrative. You're actually controlling what you're filming. Because sports, a lot of people just think you point your camera and you just, film what the action. Well, no,
Hmm.
you want to frame it properly. You want to know why you're shooting it close or tight or far in this shot, and shoot it with a purpose. And the second you start doing that, you're automatically upgrading. You're automatically, leveling up. Yeah.
So
I'm
what
still
about
waiting to do it, but I mean, hey.
so what about post? Once you're done, first of all, filming, like what's your strategy? Is there like something particular that is important in a run and gun situation in terms of your footage and everything?
So I think it's important to just dump that footage right away. You're done. You're done your shoot. Is dump that footage right away and try to start that edit ASAP. I used to wait till the next day, or if I had a deadline, I used to kind of push that edit, give myself time till that deadline. But now, as I do this more and more, and I grew up a bit. The second you put that card in after a shoot, you're fresh. You remember everything that you just shot. So I really feel it's a bigger advantage to try and tackle that edit or log that footage or mark those great shots after you shot, because you have a fresh memory. And when you don't do that, you're wasting time. And if you wait a week or 2 weeks, guess what? You forget what's happening and you're rewatching that footage. Yes, you'll remember bits and pieces, and hopefully you flag some shots so you do have a starting point. But after the event, it will save you a lot more time at the edit if you dump that footage right away. So that's the first thing I'm doing now, and it's something that I used to not do right away. I used to kind of wait. Okay, this video is due next Tuesday. Okay, well, Sunday night I'll start it, or Monday night I'll start it. I'm tired from the shoot. No, get it over with right away because you're fresh. You kind of approach it that way, or?
Not sure about the editing part because I usually film in the evening. So by the time I get home, I'm pretty over it. But it is a good idea to start the edit while it's all fresh in your mind and you know everything and where everything is. But I've got a pretty good idea most of the time. The problem with me is more if I'm using footage that I've filmed. Like, I remember I got a shot of something, but like how long, it was a while back, and yet then I start losing stuff. But if it's during the same week, I'm pretty good. But definitely like while filming, like marking my clips, like the touchdowns and the good plays, all that stuff. Like I'll mark them by shooting at the ground or shooting my hand or shooting the scoreboard. That helps a lot in post production when you have to turn around edits pretty quickly. And also it's like you said, I definitely save my footage, like put it on my server as soon as I get home, just to make sure, like if something happens, like SD cards are way more flimsy than hard drives. So as soon as you can get it out of the card, the better. Not that I had any issues with my cards, touch wood, but yeah, it's much safer to put it there, and that way, if you do format your card and forget, for whatever reason, or someone else formats your card thinking you backed it up, it's a good thing if you actually did. So put it there as quickly as possible, and then usually for me, it's more the next day I'll attack the edit and go from there. But yeah, do you have any editing tips for run and gun shooters?
Yes, definitely. So, depending on your edit, I'm going to have some music laid out ahead of time. Any graphics that I have that I know I have to need, like especially for event stuff, lower thirds, logos, stuff like that, I'm going to have them preloaded in a project ready to go, especially if it's a fast turnaround. And the other thing too is, labeling your clips. I'm going to start that edit right away with all those hero shots, all those saved clips that I had. And I'm going to kind of build out my story based off those right away. And then I'll fill in the rest, And I feel like when I was a younger editor, I don't know, everyone kind of does this, but when you have your playhead and you kind of go back and you view stuff and then you go back and forth, don't do that. Build out your story, then watch it, and then start placing stuff exactly where you want. But putting stuff on my timeline, building my story out rough right away, I could do it fast. And then I could fine tune everything as I go after. But for me, that's what the most important thing, to save time and to get my clients their stuff fast. And nowadays, also with all the social media content and the one clips and all that, what I try to do for clients is I always try and give them a little bit extra. So like say if they, they hired me for 1 reel or 2 reels, well, I'm going to give them a couple little extra clips here and there that they can use later on that could be evergreen, or even if they just want to post something that night, and I'll send that as soon as I can. Because I find it builds a lot of trust, and it shows them like, hey, look, I'm invested. Yes, we're doing this one project in here. I'm going to deliver on this one project, but you're going to remember all the extra stuff I did, and it's going to make you book me for your next project too. So those are little things that I'm doing while I'm going to that first edit too. I'll open up 2-3 timelines, and I'll drop clips on it too that I think that maybe they could use also. And when I send that final edit, I'll send them an email and say, oh, in your G Drive folder, by the way, I included a shot of, I don't know, Tommy's home run, or Tommy's when he came on stage and shook your hand and waved to everybody. I thought it was a good slow motion shot. You can always caption your next event with this and that. So I try to paste it out like that. But my actual edit, like, having pre-thinking about the edit before I've gone. So having the music, having the graphics, having a rough idea for me, that's saving me a ton of time, because there's nothing worse than having all this footage. You go and you're like, all right, I got to go to an art list and find the song now. Because that takes a lot of time, man. It takes a lot of time. What about you? What are your tips and tricks? Like, because you know what, when you and I worked a couple weeks together, and we were back to back working off edit, doing videos real pretty fast and exporting a lot of stuff. You were very organized, and you kind of did that, right? You had music set up, you had kind of some of the elements already ready to go. So what tips are you using too? Because I noticed you have your effects pack already every time you open up a project, so that saves you some time. What else what tricks are you using?
Yeah, well, definitely. Well, that's more of a YouTube thing, but like if I'm doing if I need the same packaging for every video, which can be the case if you're working for a team, I'll definitely create a template for my projects so that when I open the project, all the assets are already in it. I don't need to re-import the exact same things every time. So there's that to sort of make it faster and easier. But other than that, it's mostly what you just said. It's just like building the story first, especially if it's more of a documentary thing, or even if it's a game. It's like if it's an actual recap, putting all those touchdowns or big plays in chronological order, and try to then make this 15-minute video turn it into a 4-minute video, let's say. So yeah, just to cut it down and make it more make it cut the fat off, basically. But yeah, it's about like putting the story together and then trying to find a way to make it entertaining and not too long. And if it feels long to you, that means it's going to feel extra long to other people. Even if it's like you liked it at first, but now you feel like it's only long to you because you've seen it like 10 times. But the 10th time for you is equivalent to the first time for a normal viewer. So if it is boring you and you feel the need to fast forward, then you need to cut it down, and or just do it a different way, or maybe take it out altogether, depending on what it is. Especially if it's a game, it's probably different. But like if it's a documentary, maybe it's the part that you just need to take it out. So it's basically trying to build that story, use those different angles to make it a bit more dynamic, captivating, all that stuff, and then cut it down, make sure that it's always interesting, that people just keep wanting more. And if it's not the case, then shorten it down and go from there.
You know what I try to add too, if I have time, is a little wow factor. So it's either set up a time lapse shot, set up a drone shot, set up a 360 shot, something like that. Or if I don't have that, then use it in a transition, a one wow transition that could be effective, that doesn't take too much time, because, I feel like consistency beats complexity. So like, they're looking for speed and stuff like that, but I try to at least have one wow thing in that video, whether it's a great transition on the beat or something like that, to kind of give it a little bit more jump. And I feel like that's really important in all these, in your videos too, because you want to stand out too as an editor and as a creator.
Especially if you're doing social media content.
Yeah. But you don't always have the time. So like, I'm just saying, aim for at least one wow moment. If you have more time and your edit's due in a couple of days, you can have more. But at least have that one kind of shock and awe in your edit. I feel like it, first of all, as an editor, you feel proud of it and you're like, oh, that's cool. Like, but the client really appreciates it too. Cause
Hmm.
you can't just have straight cut, straight cut, straight cut, straight cut. Even though at the end of the day, your client doesn't really care about what camera you used or how you got that shot. They care about their final product. And if you have a quick turnaround, obviously if there's a tight deadline. There has been events where I've actually uploaded my cards right away to an SSD drive when I'm still at the event, just so I know while I'm driving home, I already have a backup version. I still have my card. If you do have the 5 minutes before and there is a place where you can do it, I suggest doing it there because it is nice to drive home and know that that card's already backed up because especially in running gun situations, you're always afraid that you lose that footage or something happens to that footage. So at least when I leave there, it's peace of mind for me, but it's not always feasible to do that there.
Yeah, no, it's true. Like to me, I don't do that, and I'll tell you why. Because like if I don't have to bring my computer because I'm doing editing on the spot, there's no way I'm bringing it. Like I'm not bringing my laptop just in case. I'm not bringing my laptop thinking, oh, I might use it to transfer a clip or to push out a clip to social, and like if because it goes back to what we were saying about being mobile and like that laptop, mine anyway, is pretty heavy, so to have it on my back, and if I'm bringing it, it's definitely staying with me unless there's like a photographer room. So yeah, to have it on my back for an afternoon, if I'm not going to be using it, yeah, that's not happening. So for that reason, I rarely do that. But if I have to bring my laptop, then yes, it's definitely a good idea.
Yeah. And listen, solo doesn't mean small. It means, work smarter, try and plan out more and, get the most angles and the most dynamic video you can get by yourself. It's tough,
Mm.
but it's a fun challenge to have, especially, when you run around a stadium or an event and you've done everything yourself and you get to put that edit together and the client's very, very happy. Like you do feel very, very proud and you feel like you accomplished something. So that's what I like about run and gun and solo shooting.
True.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it for this episode of Game Day Glare.
There you
See
go.
ya.